You think you're just tired, but it's not the kind of tired that sleep can fix. This is soul-deep exhaustion, the kind that lingers even after rest, the kind that no amount of coffee or vacation can shake. And if you're honest, you've been living in this low hum of depletion for so long that it's become your normal. But here's the warning hidden in that weariness. This might not be physical fatigue at all. It could be a spiritual red flag, a signal that something in you is resisting your path, that some part of your soul is carrying a weight it was never meant to hold, and you've mistaken this burden for life itself. Exhaustion can be a messenger, cloaked in silence, and the message it brings is often shocking. You are not living in alignment with your deepest truth. You may be saying yes when you mean no, pleasing when you long to rest, pushing when your spirit begs for stillness. And the more you override that sacred inner knowing, the more your energy leaks into things that drain you. The Buddha taught that craving is the root of suffering, and what most people don't realize is that craving can disguise itself as ambition, obligation, even compassion. You might be craving approval, craving certainty, craving peace. But through control, through fixing others, through staying busy enough to avoid yourself, and each act outside of presence creates a subtle war inside your nervous system, and your body keeps the score. It tightens, it aches, it collapses, it starts whispering through fatigue. But when you ignore it, the whispers grow louder, until exhaustion becomes your default state. You call it burnout, but it's not always overwork. Sometimes it's misalignment. Sometimes it's the cost of abandoning yourself for too long. When your soul contracts against a path your ego insists on taking, the friction creates fatigue. That's the hidden cost of inauthenticity. That's the secret weight of spiritual bypassing. You may be going through the motions, meditating, chanting, even serving others, but if it's not rooted in genuine presence, it depletes rather than nourishes. This is the shocking paradox of the path. Even sacred practices can exhaust you if they're used to escape rather than embody. And this is where awareness becomes the medicine. The Satipatthana Sutta points us back to mindfulness of the body, the breath, the feelings. Why? Because these are the places your truth speaks from. Your exhaustion is not a failure. It is feedback. It's telling you where your energy is leaking, where you are living in shoulds rather than truths, where your compassion for others has replaced compassion for yourself. You think you're tired from giving too much, but sometimes you're tired because you're giving from emptiness. You're speaking without connection, helping without boundaries, doing without presence. And the mind will justify it all as noble. But the body knows. The body remembers. The body never lies. When your body says stop, but your mind says push, you fracture your own wholeness. True rest is not just sleep, it's alignment. It's living in such a way that your actions, words, and values are not at war with your soul. It's saying no without guilt. It's letting go without story. It's walking away from the versions of yourself you built just to be loved. This is the deepest surrender, not to others, but to what's true inside you. And sometimes you're exhausted not because you're lost, but because you're on the verge of awakening. The ego dies loudly, And in that death, every false identity, every conditioned response, every role you've played begins to crumble. That unraveling feels like fatigue, but underneath it is space, freedom, stillness, the kind of rest that no vacation can offer. So, what if your exhaustion isn't a problem to fix, but a teacher to listen to? What if instead of numbing it, you got curious? What if you stopped asking what's wrong with me and started asking what truth am I avoiding? That shift in inquiry can change everything. Because the moment you turn toward your fatigue with reverence instead of shame, it begins to show you its sacred message. Exhaustion is not always a warning that you're doing too much. It's often a sign that you're doing the wrong things with too little soul. And the remedy isn't always rest. Sometimes it's truth, sometimes it's boundaries, sometimes it's walking away from the life you built on fear. Sometimes it's remembering that peace is not passive, it requires fierce honesty. You're not weak for feeling tired, you're wise for recognizing it. Because in that recognition is the doorway to real transformation. And the Buddha said, be a lamp unto yourself. That lamp is lit not by doing more, but by being more honest. When your soul gets tired of pretending, exhaustion is the light that shows you the exit. So follow it. Let it guide you back to what matters. Let it strip away everything that isn't rooted in love. Let it empty you of performance, of shoulds, of all the ways you abandoned your own joy. Let it break the pattern of depletion. Because when you finally honor what's real inside you, your energy begins to return, not as hype, but as calm, grounded power. That's the energy of alignment. It doesn't burn you out. It doesn't ask you to prove anything. It flows through you because it is you. And the moment you choose it, even if it means disappointing others, you begin to return to your sacred rhythm. Your breath deepens. Your heart softens, your life simplifies, and from that place, everything becomes clearer. So, if you're always exhausted, listen. Don't just medicate the symptoms. Investigate the source. Let your tiredness become your teacher, because it's not weakness. It's wisdom in disguise, and it's whispering the truth you've been too busy to hear. You are allowed to stop. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to live in alignment with your soul. When you rest in this way, not to escape, but to return, you'll notice that energy begins to rebuild in unexpected places, not in frantic productivity or perfectionism, but in presence. Your spirit reclaims the breath it forgot it was holding. Your body stops bracing for impact. You no longer live in reaction. You begin to respond from a deeper, quieter wisdom. And when that shift happens, you realize exhaustion was never the enemy. It was a compass. It pointed to every place you abandoned yourself, every time you said yes from fear, every time you stayed silent to avoid conflict, every moment you betrayed your own knowing just to belong. That fatigue was your soul's cry for integrity. Integrity is not about perfection, it's about presence. It's when what you say, what you do, and what you feel are all aligned. And when you begin to live like this, the exhaustion lifts, not all at once, but gently, steadily, like clouds parting after a storm. Your energy stops leaking, your power returns, not as force, but as clarity. The Buddha said, "Peace comes from within, Do not seek it without. And that peace is not a destination. It's a practice, a choice, a return to truth in every moment. You are not broken. You are breaking open. Let your exhaustion be the invitation back to yourself. Let it guide you to rest, not just in body, but in soul. Because when your soul is at rest, you move differently. You speak slower. You listen deeper. You choose with care. You live with intention. And the world feels less like something to survive and more like something to participate in. Your exhaustion becomes the gateway to a gentler, more truthful life. So stop apologizing for your tiredness. Stop shaming yourself for needing rest. Start honoring the sacred signals your being is sending. You are allowed to reset. You are allowed to recalibrate. You are allowed to change. And as you do, you give others permission to do the same. This is how healing spreads from the inside out. If you're always exhausted, it might not be because you're doing too much. It might be because you've forgotten who you are beneath all the doing. Let this be the moment you remember. Let this be your return. Because the most radical act of love is not to keep going. It's to stop, listen, and finally come home to yourself.